She slammed on the brakes so hard that her coffee spilled across the dashboard. Her mouth fell open, her hands trembled, and the only thing she managed to say was, "Dad, you need to come here, right now." In front of her, a massive iron gate shimmered in the sunlight, the kind that belonged to people she read about, not people she knew. Beyond the gate, the driveway curved up toward a white estate with glass walls, trimmed gardens, and a view that stretched across the hills. And hanging on that gate, etched in gold, was a last name she never expected to see again. Hers. But not her doing. Mine. 2 years ago, my parents had given her a $150,000 check and called it a reward for responsibility. They gave me nothing. Actually, that's not true. They gave me a label, failure. Apparently, working long shifts, paying my own rent, and chasing a dream wasn't family pride material. So I did what every good failure should do. I disappeared. No dramatic goodbye, no angry texts, no, "you'll regret this one day." Just silence. Because sometimes silence speaks louder than begging to be understood. Back then, I was driving a rusted pickup with a broken radio. Now, 2 years later, that same driveway, the one she stopped in front of, leads to my home. The funny part? I didn't even build it for revenge. I built it because peace needed an address. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Before the gates, before the shock, before the family group chat exploded with what happened, there was a time I thought love could be earned by effort. That if I worked harder, gave more, they'd finally see me. Turns out, I was wrong. And maybe that's exactly what I needed, to stop trying to be seen by people who refused to look. So, if you're wondering how the failure of the family ended up owning the estate that made his sister scream for Dad, let's rewind. Before the gates, before the silence, before the scars became strength. Welcome, story lovers. From where are you watching? Drop your city name in the comments so we can see how far our story travels. I wasn't born a failure, but somehow, from the moment my sister and I learned to walk, the scoreboard was already set. She was the bright one, the golden girl who brought home ribbons, applause, and the kind of smiles that made Mom glow. And me? I was the one who meant well, the one they said had potential, that invisible word parents use when they don't actually believe in you. Growing up, our house was a competition disguised as a family. Every report card, every milestone, every decision, compared, measured, ranked. She played piano. I played with wires and circuits, trying to figure out how things worked. She got ballet lessons. I got told to be practical. By the time I was 18, my sister was the family's trophy. I was the reminder that not all kids turn out the way parents want. Still, I tried. I wanted to prove that my worth didn't need their approval. I went to a community college, worked nights at a mechanics shop, and studied business administration during the day. I wasn't chasing luxury, I was chasing freedom. But when you grow up under judgment, even freedom feels like rebellion. My dad used to say, "If you don't make 6 figures by 30, you've failed as a man." I was 24, juggling 2 jobs, 1 broken car, and a mountain of student debt. Apparently, that wasn't ambitious enough. Meanwhile, my sister landed a corporate job after college, and suddenly, her every move became a family event. Your sister bought a condo. Your sister got a raise. Why can't you be more like her? You'd think I'd get used to it, but you never get used to being invisible in your own home. Then came the breaking point. Mom called a family meeting. We sat at the dining table, the same table where I'd spent childhood birthdays blowing out candles I wasn't sure were for me. Dad slid an envelope across the table toward my sister. "Down payment for your new house," he said proudly. $150,000. She gasped. Mom cried. Cameras flashed. I smiled, because that's what good sons do. Then Dad turned to me and said almost casually, "You should start thinking about settling down too, once you figure out a real career." That's when the room blurred. It wasn't the money. It was the message. You're not worth investing in. I walked out quietly that night. No scene, no anger, just a deep aching silence that felt heavier than words. They thought I'd cool off and come back. I didn't. I rented a tiny apartment on the edge of town. 1 bedroom, paper-thin walls, a flickering bulb in the kitchen. I picked up extra shifts at the shop, started fixing old cars for side cash, and slept maybe 4 hours a night. Bills piled up. Some nights I ate instant noodles while scrolling through my sister's Instagram. Her champagne toasts, her new furniture, her blessed life. But pain can be a quiet motivator. I stopped complaining. Every mistake became a lesson. Every insult became fuel. I learned how to manage money, started reading business blogs, and took online courses about flipping vehicles for profit. At first it was survival. Then it became purpose. Still there were moments of doubt. Like the winter my heat got cut off and I slept in 3 layers of clothes using my jacket as a blanket. Or the day my car broke down on the freeway and I had to walk 5 miles to work in the rain. No one called. No, are you okay? No, need help? It was as if I'd never existed. But even in that loneliness, something shifted. When you have no one left to impress, you finally start building for yourself. Slowly, my side work turned into a real business. I started buying old cars, fixing them up, and selling them online. The profit wasn't huge, but it was mine. I named the business Rust to Rise Garage because that's exactly what it felt like. Rebuilding something that everyone else had thrown away, and little by little I rose too. Not in headlines, not in applause, but in silence. Looking back now, I realize pain didn't break me. It refined me. All those nights I thought I was falling apart, I was really just being stripped down to steel. Because one day, I'd need that strength to face the same people who once looked right through me. They say success is the best revenge, but they're wrong. The best revenge is peace, especially when it lives behind iron gates with your name on them. Change doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it sneaks in, quiet, almost accidental, like a crack in the wall you don't notice until light starts coming through. For me, that crack appeared one muggy afternoon at the shop. A man named Cliff Bowman walked in, a middle-aged real estate developer with the kind of confidence that made you feel underdressed just standing near him. His Mercedes had broken down on the highway, and he wanted it fixed fast. He looked around the garage like it was beneath him. "Anyone here actually know what they're doing?" he asked. I wiped my hands, walked over, and told him, "Depends. Are you paying for speed or skill?" He smirked. "Both, if you can deliver." I fixed his car in under 2 hours. Fuel injector issue, nothing major. When he came back, he stood watching me test the engine, a look of faint surprise on his face. "You run this place?" I shook my head. "Not yet. Just trying to keep it alive." He nodded slowly, then asked a question that changed everything. "You ever think about working for yourself?" It sounded almost insulting because that's exactly what I was trying to do, just without the shiny equipment or backing. But something in his tone wasn't mocking. It was curious. He left his card before driving off. "Bowman Motors and Restorations." I didn't call him for weeks. Pride, I guess. But one night, sitting at my tiny kitchen table surrounded by unpaid bills, I finally picked up the phone. That call turned into a coffee meeting. That meeting turned into a mentorship. And that mentorship turned into an education I could never have afforded. Cliff wasn't gentle. He was the kind of man who'd laugh at your excuses. He'd say, "If you want comfort, go back to your parents. If you want change, start bleeding for it." I bled plenty. He taught me about flipping high-end vehicles, how rich people would pay triple if a car came with a story. He showed me how to find value where others saw junk. Rust, he'd say, isn't decay. It's evidence of survival. Those words stuck. Within months, I was taking bigger risks, buying my own small lot, restoring luxury cars with my own hands and selling them online. The profits grew slowly but steadily. Then came the injustice, the kind that reminds you life doesn't reward honesty easily. A wealthy client commissioned a full rebuild of a classic Aston Martin. I poured weeks into that car, long nights, scraped knuckles, every ounce of focus I had. When it was done, it looked like art, but when I went to collect payment, the client vanished. Fake name, fake number. The money I'd borrowed for the parts? Real. I was broke again, worse than before. Cliff said, "Consider this your tuition." I wanted to punch a wall, but he was right. That night, sitting in the empty garage, I made a decision. No one was ever going to decide my worth again. Not my parents, not my clients, not the world. So I rebranded, built a new identity, registered Rust to Rise Restorations as a legitimate business. I took small contracts, grew a reputation online, and built trust the slow, honest way. Every good review felt like redemption. But success comes with shadows. A former coworker, jealous that I was getting attention, reported me for operating without full licenses. The inspection nearly shut me down. 3 months of paperwork, fines, and sleepless nights followed. Still, I didn't fold. I learned the rules better than the people enforcing them. And when I finally reopened, I promised myself one thing. I'd never owe anyone, not even gratitude. The turning point came a year later when Cliff introduced me to a partner looking to invest in vintage restoration. We formed a deal, my skills, his funding, shared ownership. It was terrifying. I'd spent my whole life fearing failure. Now I was betting everything on it. That's when I understood something powerful. You don't escape your past. You outgrow it. Meanwhile, back home, my sister's picture-perfect life was starting to crack. Her husband's investment firm took a nosedive. Suddenly, the golden child was living under financial pressure. Mom called one evening, her first call in almost 2 years. "Your sister's going through a tough time," she said softly. I waited for what always came next. "Can you help?" But this time, I wasn't that person anymore. I said, "I hope she figures it out," and hung up. That night, for the first time, I didn't feel guilt. I felt growth. From there, things escalated fast. My business started getting local attention. Magazine features, classic car enthusiasts, even a few celebrity buyers. I went from scraping change for oil filters to negotiating 6-figure deals. But through it all, I stayed quiet. No social media flexing. No revenge posts. Just steady work, silence, and faith that the right eyes would see when the time was right. Then one morning they did. An investor from Los Angeles stopped by the lot after reading an article about our restorations. He loved the vision, the craftsmanship, and most of all, the story. He said, "Ever thought about expanding beyond cars? Imagine designing homes with the same philosophy, restoration, not replacement." It was a wild idea, but something about it felt poetic. That conversation planted the seed for what would become Rust to Rise Estates, the property that would later make my sister slam her brakes. But at that moment, all I knew was that my life had finally shifted. I'd gone from rejected son to self-made builder of something bigger than family approval. The irony. Everything I became came from the lessons they never meant to teach me. They taught me to survive without love, to believe in my worth when no one else did, to build something from the ruins they left behind, and maybe, just maybe, that's why success tasted so different. It didn't taste like pride. It tasted like peace. The morning my sister showed up unannounced, I was in the barn, hands covered in sawdust, finishing the last coat of varnish on a table I'd been building. The sound of tires crunching over gravel was followed by a sharp, familiar voice, one that still carried that same condescending tone from years ago. "Is this your place?" she asked, her words stretching in disbelief. I stepped out, wiping my hands on a rag. Behind her, my father's silver SUV pulled up. He stepped out slowly, scanning the property, the rolling hills, the house I'd restored, the greenhouses, the rows of fruit trees. The air went thick with tension. My sister stood frozen, her eyes darting from the farmhouse to the workshop, to the solar panels glinting in the morning sun. "This can't be yours," she muttered. "You couldn't even hold a job." I didn't answer. I just smiled and motioned toward the wooden sign nailed to the fence post. Evergreen Restoration, owned and founded by Daniel Reed. Her jaw tightened. My father's face turned pale. They both knew that name. The same name that had started appearing in small business features, the same name printed on the community donation plaques around town. The same name they'd mocked 2 years ago when I told them I wanted to build furniture and restore land instead of taking a real job. My father broke the silence first. "You could have told us." I laughed, a quiet, tired laugh that came from somewhere deep. "Told you? Like the time I told you I was struggling and you called me a disappointment? Or when I said I wanted to build something with my hands and you said I'd never be more than a laborer?" My sister stepped forward, her voice cracking. You didn't have to cut us off completely, didn't I? I interrupted. You got $150,000 to start your life. I got a lecture about being a failure. You built a house. I built this. With no help, no inheritance, no approval. For a moment, no one spoke. The wind carried the sound of birds and distant machines humming from the workshop. My father's gaze softened as he looked around, realizing this wasn't just a house. It was a statement, a life rebuilt from rejection. Then my sister snapped. So what now? You think you're better than us? I looked at her. The anger in her voice was more about guilt than pride. No, I said quietly. I just stopped needing your permission to exist. Her voice wavered. You could have at least shared what you were doing. I shook my head. You don't share dreams with people who laugh at them. Just then, one of my workers drove by in a delivery truck, honking and waving. The logo on the side read, Evergreen, handcrafted by heart. My sister's eyes followed it, then turned back to me. Her face flushed with something between envy and regret. My father finally spoke, his voice low, almost trembling. Daniel, we misjudged you. I met his eyes. No, Dad. You judged me perfectly, Aunt, according to what you valued. Money, status, titles. You just never thought the boy who failed your expectations would build something worth more than all that. For a long time, he didn't say a word. Then he took a slow step forward, looking around, at the property, the people working, the peace. You did all this yourself? I nodded. Every nail, every loan, every risk. My sister's phone buzzed. The screen lit up with a notification. She glanced down and froze. It was a feature article. From outcast to entrepreneur. How Daniel Reed built Evergreen Restoration into a multi-million-dollar brand. Her hands trembled. You're that Daniel Reed. I smiled faintly. The same one you said would never make it. She looked like she might faint. My father's eyes glistened, but whether it was pride or shame, I couldn't tell. I didn't build this to prove you wrong, I said quietly. I built it to prove myself right. The words hung in the air like thunder. They turned to leave after a long silence, their footsteps crunching over the gravel. My sister hesitated, glancing back at me. Daniel, it's okay, I said gently but firmly. You don't owe me an apology. Just remember, sometimes the failure becomes the foundation. She nodded, tears forming. Then she walked away, shoulders heavy. My father lingered for one last look at the property, the life they had once dismissed. Then he whispered, We should have believed in you. I watched their car drive down the hill until it disappeared. Then I turned back toward the house. My house. The one I'd built not from inheritance, but from faith, grit, and silence. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel anger, just peace. 2 years after that confrontation, life feels quieter, yet fuller than ever before. The same gravel driveway that once echoed with my parents' disbelief now welcomes trucks, apprentices, and friends. The air here carries the scent of cedar, coffee, and peace. Evergreen Restoration has grown beyond anything I imagined. What began as a one-man dream in a leaky shed has become a thriving workshop employing 30 people, many of them once written off just like I was. Veterans, dropouts, people who were told they'd never make it. I know their stories because I've lived them. Every morning I still walk through the property before sunrise. I run my fingers along the smooth grain of finished tables, touch the bark of the fruit trees I planted, and whisper a silent prayer of gratitude. This land taught me something no classroom ever could, that healing doesn't always come from being accepted. Sometimes it comes from creating a life so whole that rejection no longer matters. My sister hasn't said much since that day. But one evening, she sent me a message. No excuses, no explanations, just one line. I'm proud of you, Danny. I read it 3 times before replying. Thanks, sis. You can visit any time. And she did. Slowly, quietly, she started to show up. First to drop off homemade pie, then to buy furniture for her new nursery. She's softer now, less certain, more human. Sometimes we sit on the porch drinking coffee in silence. We don't talk about the past. It's there, but it doesn't hurt anymore. As for my parents, time has humbled them in its own way. My father calls occasionally. The first time he said, "I'm proud of you, son," I felt something loosen inside me, a knot I didn't even know I'd been carrying. My mother came next, bringing old family photos she thought I might want. We sat together on that same porch, flipping through faded pictures. She cried quietly when she saw me smiling in one. "You were always such a good boy," she whispered. I didn't correct her. Some truths are too small for revenge. Now, Evergreen isn't just a business, it's a home for second chances. I fund workshops for young people who've been told they'll never succeed without connections or capital. Every time I see one of them build their first table or plant their first tree, I see my younger self in their eyes, eager, uncertain, and full of quiet fire. The town that once ignored me now calls me Mr. Reed. Local schools invite me to speak. Banks that once denied my loan applications now ask to sponsor my projects. Irony has a strange way of becoming poetry when you stay patient long enough. But here's the thing. Success stopped being about proving anyone wrong a long time ago. These days, it's about peace, about mornings spent teaching a young craftsman how to carve wood without fear of mistakes, about evenings spent under the golden light of the barn, surrounded by laughter, music, and the hum of possibility. I built a home not of bricks, but of forgiveness. Every nail, every tree, every chair carries a piece of that story. The story of what happens when silence isn't weakness, but strength gathering its voice. Last winter, during the holidays, my parents visited again. The table we sat around was one I built myself, oak and walnut, sturdy and smooth. My father ran his hand across it and said, half smiling, "You've built something that'll outlast all of us." I nodded. He was right. Not just the table, but the lesson. That night, as snow fell outside, my sister's kids played near the fireplace, laughter filling the room. My mother turned to me and said, "This feels like family again." I looked at her, then at the house, the light, the warmth. "It is," I said. "It always could have been." Sometimes I still think about those words from years ago. Failure. They don't sting anymore. They remind me of where I came from, what I had to build to find myself. I learned that failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the raw material that shapes it. Now, when I drive through town and see the Evergreen logo on benches, schools and community centers, I don't feel pride in the arrogant sense. I feel calm. Like the earth beneath me knows I've made peace with it. I no longer need my parents' approval or the world's applause. My revenge turned into redemption the moment I chose silence over bitterness, work over words, and purpose over pain. And maybe that's what true success is. Not the money, not the recognition, but the quiet moment when you realize you no longer have to prove your worth to anyone. You just live it. Thanks for watching. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe for more powerful true stories every week, where pain turns to power and silence finds its voice.